Finally, we have arrived to the last 3 Saw movies I have left to review: Saw 3D, Jigsaw, and Spiral. I was both dreading and kind of excited to be able to talk about these movies. Dreading because these are the 3 Saw movies that essentially almost made me lose my enthusiasm for the franchise. While there's only really one film out of these 3 I actually hate, the other 2 I find to be just fine. I don't have like a strong negative feeling towards them. I'm a Saw fan. I've put up with some bad stuff already in the past, but I felt like these movies just really were grasping at straws to try and return to what the franchise used to be. They never seemed to capture the same thrills in terms of the characters I could get attached to, the twists they reveal, and even some of the traps. They just end up feeling okay. But it was because of these past 3 Saw movies that whenever Saw X got announced, I felt nothing in my body for it. And you know me, I get excited for almost anything. But thankfully, a lot of the marketing and what I've seen and heard about Saw X has completely changed my mind. Let me at least dive into why these last 3 movies just really made me question, am I still a Saw fan? Saw 3D. Oh god, James Cameron, we blame you for this one. This was at a time where 3D was getting a resurgence, as it likes to do every couple of years, and it happened to land on the Saw movie that was supposed to be part 1 in a 2-part finale. But unfortunately, because Saw 6, a great Saw movie, underperformed at the box office, the studio forced the creative team to merge the ideas of the 2-part series into one film. Maybe explaining why this one feels convoluted, jumbled up, and like it has so much going on. But that's not even my main hatred towards this movie. This is the ugliest Saw film we have ever gotten. A lot of that has to do because the movie was shot to be in 3D, so it's supposed to look semi-normal with 3D glasses, but in today's age, I don't got 3D TV. You got 3D TV? Who's got a 3D TV? James Cameron got all the 3D TVs, doesn't he? And because of this, a lot of the cranberry juice liquid that pops out of your veins turned out looking a lot more pink than red. I also feel like filming the movie in 3D made them lose a lot of budget in terms of sets and just overall staging, because a lot of this looks extremely cheap and nasty. And it really only continues to get worse. So we start off with the opening of Saw 3D with a flashback to just the first Saw movie. Kind of an interesting flashback to start off the film with, since there was a lot of unanswered things in Saw 6, but also makes the twist reveal of this movie extremely predictable, transitioning us to what probably sounded like a great idea on paper: a public trap. What we have here is 2 college students who are caught in between a love triangle, and Jigsaw informs them that if they would like to be set free, the 2 boys in between the love triangle must push the saw towards them, eliminating one of them, setting the other 2 free. Now look, I do agree, a public trap, awesome idea. The way it's executed in Saw 3D, hate it. So many thoughts in my mind happening during this scene. Why is it filmed during the daytime? Why not make it a night grungy thing and light it up with some cool lighting? Daytime kind of ruins it for me. 2, why is Jigsaw getting involved with a college affair and making that trap worthy? This definitely feels like at the bottom of my list of people who deserve to be in a trap. The most insane part of me, though, is the way others feel about this trap, because I mentioned, as a Saw fan, I like to be part of Saw fan pages. So I follow a couple of like Saw Facebook groups to hear what other fans think, see what their theories are, read about their favorite moments in the franchise. I like that stuff. And look what happens anytime you bring up this trap in those kind of fan groups. They're saying here, do you think Dina from Saw 3D deserved her death? 200% yes, I effing love this scene. Cheater, definitely yes. I hope Jigsaw tested her for STDs first. All that blood on the 2 guys. Yeah, her death was satisfying. Top contributor. When they call us Saw fans sickos and weirdos, I promise we're not all like that. And yes, cheating is bad and wrong, but I want to remind you, this is a movie where literally Jigsaw takes down a group of Nazis. You know, R.I.P. Chester. Big Linkin Park fan, man. And seeing him in this movie was kind of like, damn. Hurt my heart. But I could see more of them defending this scene than the other one. From there, we follow the formula of what the past 3 Saw movies have been doing, following the main overarching soap opera horror story, while throwing in a side story that a first-time viewer can get invested in. Sticking to the side story here, we follow Bobby, who's a fraud, and has built a career off writing a book and faking that he's a survivor from a Saw trap. And again, Saw 3D is filled with tons of ideas that on paper I love. I like the the idea of that. Someone taking advantage of proclaiming to be a victim, writing a book, making all this money, definitely somebody that would end up becoming on Jigsaw's radar. And boy, does Saw 7 not only bust out the most high-tech 3D quality, the de-aging in here, Disney could learn a few things.
Your name, sir?
John Kramer in a backwards hat. He's at least 25 in this photo. But he'll be put through a series of free roam traps with the people that help him become famous, from his best friend, his publicist, all time sensitive because he must reach his wife before she dies. And the journey this character goes on is fine. If anything, he meets that same level of Jeff where I'm just not that interested in him. I do like, though, as he goes through his journey, we get some like flashbacks to a Saw support group, and we get to see a lot of survivors from previous Saw games come in to share their thoughts and just kind of reiterate why John's games don't really rehabilitate most people.
It was him or me, and I chose to live. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. You want to know the best thing that happened to me? It's handicap parking at the damn mall.
Put me in a Saw trap and I get handicap parking? It also gives us glimpses to other traps that happened in the past we never got to see, like this lawnmower trap where two people have to hang on to this razor-covered pole, and the last one gripping on before shredding like Chucky in Child's Play 3 gets to survive. But some of the most memorable traps that Bobby will go through in this movie are like the fish hook trap. This is kind of an eerie situation where he must dig out a fish hook that is inside the stomach, but the louder she screams from pain, the closer these needles will get to her neck, ending her life. And it's just kind of like, what? It's even funnier with like how insensitive Bobby is once the person fails.
Why would you just shut the fuck up?
None of us would be able to withhold our screams. The other memorable one for me, because I have a fear of going to the dentist, is the one where he has to pull his teeth to get the combination code for the door. Oh, I would hate to be put in that situation. Not really like that extreme and gory, but it's simplified enough, and that's what makes a good Saw trap fun. Ending his journey with Jigsaw making him recreate the trap that he lied about being in, where he said 2 hooks strapped to his chest could support his body weight and lift himself up to freeing his wife. Failing at his own made-up game, causing his wife to burn in a fiery oven. This was honestly just cruel. It wasn't fun to watch. It wasn't exciting. It was just kind of like, this poor wife, she's been nothing but nice the entire movie, never did anything wrong. This is where the Saw traps really just went off the rails. I know a lot of this is because these traps are then set up by either Hoffman or Amanda, and they have their own twisted way of just making sure at least someone dies during these traps, but I really miss the era of John Kramer traps where he would make sure there's a way for you to make it out. There's no reason someone this nice should go through such a nasty death. But getting back to the soap opera part in here, they ruined it for me. I was mentioning I was a Hoffman boy. I was like, dude, he survived, and we get to see the continuation of that survival. He goes to his safe room, sews together his mouth from his injury, gets a gnarly scar, and the Hoffmanator is put on a path to end everybody. But the movie just handles it in such a weird way where Hoffman no longer becomes interesting. He just becomes this brooding force that loves to stab people in the neck. Literally, he stabs like 6 people. It's his go-to finishing move. They even do something I couldn't believe the first time around and give us a fake out dream sequence where Jill Tuck thinks she's put in a trap thanks to Hoffman, leading to like one of the most low budget looking takedowns. And I wish I could show it to you, but the algorithm has not been kind to me lately. There's even this cop that, again, not interesting, not a character I care about, completely annoying, named Detective Gibson, where Hoffman saved him from a homeless man who took his gun and through unnecessary excessive force took down the homeless man. Like, this movie completely forgot what made the Hoffman character, to me, interesting. Hoffman from the beginning was a good cop. He was a nice guy, but when he lost his sister to a criminal out there and the justice system did nothing for it, he snapped. That's what led him to frame Jigsaw and put the criminal through this elaborate trap. Jigsaw eventually finding him out, blackmailing him, and forcing him to be part of his games, but it was always very clear Hoffman did not want to do this. Even John Kramer mentions he does not have the killer instinct in him.
Or I could kill you right now. But you're not a true killer. That's your dilemma.
He almost had like a mini Walter White Breaking Bad arc where he just kind of lost himself, and this movie takes it to a whole other way where they rewrite his past that he was always this way and turns him into a one-dimensional brute. I hated what they did with Hoffman in here. It made me lose all interest in the character they've built up in the past 3 movies. And I was honestly pissed that they axed off Jill Tuck, Jigsaw's wife. Like, what? She gets one of the sweetest, gnarliest, grotesque scenes of the movie, but it didn't feel satisfying. But the thing that sealed the deal for me with Saw 3D was its twist ending that fans saw coming miles away. Hoffman feels he's got out of it scot-free. He's gonna walk away when he gets attacked by a couple of people in a pig mask, the leader being revealed to be Dr. Gordon. Shocking every Saw fan out there that Dr. Gordon, ever since the events of the first Saw movie, has been working secretly with Jigsaw as an apprentice. Doing a lot of the medical things that are necessary in some of the Saw traps. And look, on paper, Dr. Gordon being behind it all, working with Jigsaw as an apprentice, I love that idea. I am for that idea. The execution and the way it played out, terrible. Saw fans saw this twist coming ever since Saw 2. The moment you showed us that tape of someone in this nice silky Jigsaw robe limping and surgically putting the key behind someone's eyes, the fan theories were born. Dr. Gordon is a Jigsaw apprentice, and we have literally said that with every sequel until it just finally got revealed in the 7th film. The fact also that Saw 3D is supposed to be the end, but they continue just teasing stuff off in case they can make more with like who the 2 pig people are working with Gordon. In the audio commentary for the movie, it said that it's actually the 2 college boys from the opening scene, which don't love that idea. I definitely think Dr. Gordon has his own apprentices, because the moment in the movie where they're talking about the Saw support group of victims that have survived, and it said that Dr. Gordon frequently makes visits to this group, it's obvious he's just picking and choosing people that have earned respect for their life and that he can train to be Jigsaw apprentices. And that's a cool idea that maybe should have been explored instead of an offhand, implied thing. So to me, Saw 3D left such a sour taste in Saw fans, and to the point that we wouldn't get a new Saw movie for 7 years. Jigsaw. Now look, I know there's going to be a lot of people who love this movie, who like it. It was probably their introduction to the Saw world. And I do remember the marketing push for Jigsaw being a big deal, because it was like the return of Saw, and they were heavily marketing Tobin Bell coming back. How they would explain that? That's the exciting part, right? But while I don't hate Jigsaw, I'm just not even that big of a fan of it either. I'm somewhere in the middle, where some of the ideas in here, kind of cool, kind of interesting. While at the same time, part of it feels like this interconnected soap opera story is kind of what's stopping the Saw movies from going to a higher level. They're so hindered by the lore, flashbacks, and things that have happened in the past that this movie has to force itself in trying to justify its existence. But starting with the opening of the movie, we're seeing a criminal running away from a group of cops. He's got a device in his hand, about to push the button until the cops put an end to him. Before he passes on, he lets us know that the games have begun, bringing us to a Saw trap filled with 5 people in a room with buckets on their head. I think Plankton is behind this one, tied up to chains, having to suffer through a variety of different rooms in order to escape. Now look, starting off with the things I do like about this Jigsaw trap is, one, the idea that this chain is interconnected through a bunch of different rooms and it pulls them to each one. That is so cool. But I also gotta admit, I'm not a fan of the look of the Jigsaw movie. It is so polished, clean cut. It looks nothing like the previous Saw movies, and I know that was intentional because Jigsaw was supposed to be almost like a soft reboot. But the tapes where Billy shows up, or the close-ups of Billy's face, they honestly look like scenes cut out from the Scary Movie franchise. I think there's just something iconic and gritty about Billy in green lighting or dark lighting. I'm not loving the digital new age look of it, but hey, it's a creative choice and some people do like it. When focusing on the traps of this movie, I feel like they're not that memorable. Like, while it's an iconic look to have these people with chum buckets on their heads edging towards saws, that's really about it. The other traps in here just don't have that sort of feel that you would want for like a new comeback of a Saw movie. If I did have to pick another trap other than the chum buckets, of course it's the cycle trap. It just looks really cool with the spiral going in. I just hate the backstory involved with this trap, because Man, Jigsaw cannot catch a break in his life. We find out that the victim, Mitch, who's put on this trap, is actually somebody who sold a faulty motorcycle to the nephew of Jigsaw, causing him to die. And this is the kind of thing that irks me about Saw, and why I wasn't looking forward to Saw X at one point, is this constant need to go back to John Kramer's past and reveal a small little detail that adds really nothing to this story. Why do we need to know John Kramer had a nephew and he died? Like, what is the point of that? Just so you can connect him to this victim? And really, all the backstories in here are not that interesting. We have a woman who stole a purse and caused someone to die from an asthma attack. I shouldn't be laughing, but the way the movie plays it out is just kind of ridiculous. Again, another not funny. Stop laughing, Chris. A father who turns over on a baby and causes them to die. At least that's the story the woman tells the group, when it's actually later revealed that she smothered her own baby. Not funny, stop laughing. But framed the dad instead, who ended up taking his own life from the guilt. What? Like, why are we doing this? It's not funny, but the way the movie plays it out, you just can't help but to go, this is ridiculous. But all in all, while these traps are going on and our victims are trying to figure a way out, we cut to a couple of detectives finding these bodies pop up once they are dying in these traps, and are kind of in disbelief that after 10 years of being dead, John Kramer, Jigsaw, could still be out there. It for sure created like an intriguing plot for the movie. It had me hooked the first time watching it, like, are they really going to find a way to bring John Kramer back? Like, is he really out there? How are they going to pull this off? It genuinely had me going, okay, let's see how you pull off this one. And there are a couple of characters in here I was finding appealing, mainly Eleanor. She ends up becoming kind of the red herring of the movie because she's a big Jigsaw fan. She goes to a website called Jigsaw Rules. But she's such a big fan to the point that she surfs the dark webs and finds blueprints for John Kramer's old traps and recreates them in this warehouse. I'm simping over Eleanor. That is my dream woman right there. That obsessed with the Saw franchise? Give me a call, Eleanor. What? Nothing, babe. Jumping forward, though, to the ending twist of the movie that just, like, ruined this film for me. I'm sorry. We find out here that Logan Nelson, the medical examiner who's been working with these detectives trying to figure out who's doing what, in his past, he accidentally mixed up the graphs for John Kramer to where they found his cancer too late in life, causing him to end up in a Jigsaw trap years ago, which is actually the same trap we've been following this entire time that was not happening in present day, even though we got a bunch of flat screens, super high quality HD looks of Jigsaw compared to the other movies. They were on VHS. This Jigsaw was on Laserdisc. He was actually a victim that didn't wake up in time to have a fair chance with his trap. John Kramer felt bad, aided him, and turned Logan into, say it with me, a Jigsaw apprentice. A Jigsaw apprentice. But not just anyone. The first Jigsaw apprentice. He was the OG apprentice, helping John Kramer set up a lot of his traps, even helping him build the reverse bear trap. An unnecessary origin for that device, but whatever. And the reason he wasn't part of the games throughout Saw 1 through 7 is because he was deployed in the military, excusing his absence all this time. I hate that reveal. It doesn't work for me. Was it a little shocking? Yes. But it felt solely pulled out of someone's butt to try and recreate more stories. Like, how many other unknown apprentices are we about to get? It's a tiring trope at this point in the Saw franchise. I will forever wonder what the big idea was or what they had planned, because I can't imagine they just restarted the franchise naming it Jigsaw without having some sort of idea in mind for the story. I think Jigsaw was kind of supposed to be the Saw 4. Is that movie that's hindered by doing a lot of setting up and introducing new characters for a new horror soap opera story they were about to tell us? Because you can't tell me that, you know, Nelson and Eleanor weren't somehow going to become the new, like, Hoffman and Strom. They were definitely going to end up becoming foes and fight one another, and it would have been kind of interesting because Eleanor is a Jigsaw fan. She's obsessed over that, so you would think she's an easy apprentice. She'd be someone who you would easily be able to convince to be on Jigsaw's side, but maybe not. But she already has a history with building traps, making them. She would have been a really great foe for Logan. But this movie didn't resonate with audiences. It didn't make that much money. And some fans don't like it, and that's why they abandoned this idea. And for the next movie, we got a spin-off. Spiral from the Book of Saw. Now, I've actually already done regular reviews for this, even a full-on spoiler review, so I'm actually not going to spend too much time on this movie, because I'll just end up retreading a lot of what I've already said, but I do want to make clear I don't think this is a bad one. While I still contribute Spiral for giving me my lackluster enthusiasm for another upcoming Saw movie, it's honestly just fine. The birth of this movie came where Chris Rock, pre-slap, in real life is actually a big Saw fan and has always wanted to make a movie, to the point he even told original writer and creator Lee Winnell that in person.
And as he was walking away, his agent said to him, "That guy wrote Saw." And he like stopped in his tracks, came back and was like, "You wrote Saw?" And suddenly he was super interested. And he said to me, "I would love to make a Saw film." And I thought it was just something that you say at a party, you know, like, "Hey, I'd love to dye my hair pink too." You just say it because the person's got pink hair. You don't want to make them feel bad. Turns out he was serious.
And well, once the studio found out a star like Chris Rock wants to make a Saw movie, they're gonna let him do whatever he wants. Saw was never really known for adding in memorable looking stars into their movies. You know, Chris Rock, Samuel L. Jackson, that is like giant stars for the Saw franchise. I know they got lucky with like Danny Glover in the first Saw movie, but still, we hadn't had star power like that in the past 8 Saw movies. It was also made very clear that this would be a spin-off to the Saw universe. It would not be hindered towards the legacy, the lore, everything with the past Saw movies, which I actually saw as a bonus. A lot of the Saw story was getting too convoluted, jumping all over the place, apprentices popping up left and right. I think it was time to abandon that story. So I was actually excited for Spiral for the Book of Saw because I like the actors involved, I like the idea for the story direction, they're promising something unique and different. Even a lot of the marketing material for Spiral looked nothing like any of the previous Saw movies. It seemed like the perfect way to evolve the franchise. So what happens when you go see this movie?
Hello, Detective Boswick. I want to play a game.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
It's exactly like 4 other Saw movies we've gotten that just look completely different. Spiral from the Book of Saw to me is the equivalent from when you're playing a video game and you change like the skin or costume of your character, but they still have the same move list, right? You're playing Batman and you want to give him the Batman Beyond skin. Doesn't have Batman Beyond powers, doesn't fly around like Batman Beyond, doesn't have all the gadgets like Batman Beyond. No, it's still Arkham Batman. He just looks different. And that's what Spiral from the Book of Saw is. It is just a typical, ordinary, formulaic Saw movie that looks a little different. And that's why to me it's not bad, it just exists. It's just there to me, honestly. The unique angle they try to go with for Spiral this time around is create an unknown Jigsaw copycat. Chris Rock is lurking around the city trying to figure out who it is, and we get some unique traps out of it. I think the subway trap where the character has to jump off the rail with just the weight of his tongue that'll be ripped off his body, that's kind of a nasty, cool trap. The finger trap, also pretty unsettling. But I remember this trap playing out for the first time in theaters and it actually feeling like a classic Saw trap. But as these traps in Spiral are going on, they're happening to different police officers in the precinct. And that was kind of like a common thing throughout the Saw films, right? A lot of police officers came and went throughout the series. So this became kind of the main focus of this Jigsaw copycat. He wants to get rid of dirty, corrupt cops. And I'm like, okay, that's unique. At least we don't have a Jigsaw that's looking at college students and what they're doing on their off time. They're looking at corrupt police officers. That seems like a good agenda. But it's when we get to the twist of this movie that, again, it loses me. It makes me so uninterested, and it's like, that's kind of a boring reveal. The whole time the movie's maybe leading you to believe that Samuel Jackson could end up being Jigsaw. He's missing from a good chunk of the movie and was kidnapped. We do get flashbacks to maybe that would be where they use the latest de-aging technology again. Fun fact, the director of this movie, Darren Lynn Bousman, said that he purposely did the backwards hat thing in the flashback because of how much the fans like that with John Kramer in Saw 3D. But we get the story of a corrupt cop who takes down the life of a witness to the corruption by the police, where the son was witness to it all, and that son turned out to be Chris Rock's new partner in the precinct. This was a Saw reveal I think a lot of people saw coming miles away. The obvious giveaway for this is whenever it came time for his trap, they did not show the body. They did not show the Saw trap play out like all the other Saw traps. Like, we're watching a Saw movie. When you purposely give us a trap that you like censor and don't show any of them, that's like a giveaway to Saw fans. Out of all the apprentices, I'm just like, Come on, you're no Mark Hoffman, you're no Dr. Gordon, you're not even an Amanda. I'm more interested to see what Logan does than you, my friend. And I know he's not a Jigsaw apprentice, but he's literally taking after the teachings of Jigsaw. He's kind of an apprentice. But whether you like Spiral or not, well, get used to unanswered questions, because I doubt we'll see these characters ever again. Spiral had the unfortunate pleasure of being released during the time of the pandemic, so it didn't get the chance to perform at its full capacity, which I do think, whether you liked it or not, I feel like this movie could have earned a lot of money if things were normal. But that's the thing that sucks now about the Saw franchise. With these last 3 films and where they're headed in for Saw X, it literally feels like they're just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. They didn't like this story? All right, we're not going to answer those questions anymore. Oh, they didn't like that story? All right, we're not going to answer those questions anymore. Spinoff? You didn't like this? All right, we're not going to answer those questions anymore. Prequel, back to the very beginning, baby. That's how we do it. Yet they still hook me in, man, because, like, I'm watching Saw X in a couple of hours, and I am hyped. I have not been this excited for a new Saw movie in a long time, and I've been hearing nothing but positive buzz, so I hope I walk out loving this movie, not having, nitpicky things to complain about. But this is where I throw off to you guys. These past 3 Saw movies, did they lower your enthusiasm for the franchise the way they did me? If you're a lover of Saw 3D, Jigsaw, or Spiral, tell me what really stood out to you about those movies. Anything and everything, be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.